My regards. Why are the dimensions of football fields not uniform from field to field? Why do you not agree on the exact distance? I mean, you see some coaches coming out and saying after they stumble that their field was longer than usual or wider than what we are accustomed to. People consider him to be making an excuse, but in reality his words are accurate. We remember in 2016, before facing Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, Guardiola went and trained at Rayo Vallecano Stadium. His justification was that the dimensions of Atletico Madrid Stadium are completely different from the stadium where Bayern Munich players play, which is the Allianz Arena. In this video, I will tell you why the dimensions are different from one field to another, and I will tell you why. This video also means that 5 years, 4 years, or 10 years will not be important. In fact, the reason is that there are no single dimensions for a football field. Basically, the football law is flexible in this regard. FIFA laws say that the football field must be between 90 and 120 meters long. Its width is between 45 and 90. The basic condition is that it be rectangular and with clear dimensions or ratio and proportion between length and width. Therefore, it is impossible to see a 90 by 90 stadium. This is how it becomes a square. Okay, why is FIFA flexible in this law? To facilitate the process of building stadiums and building the stands around them. Also, because in some stadiums, if they adhere to a specific area and length, this means that the viewing experience in some seats in the stadium may become bad. Especially since it is in stadiums that were originally built a long time ago in stadiums with multiple purposes, or what are called Olympic stadiums. But FIFA is gradually reducing this flexibility. He said, be careful that this is a flexible law for all matches, except for international matches. International matches have more precise conditions. The width must be between 64 and 75 meters. The length is between 100 and 120 meters. For your information, in the past, the club could change the length of its stadium from match to match. Now the rules in most leagues require the club to adhere to one dimension during the season. For example, in 1987, Glasgow Rangers faced the Ukrainian Dynamo Kiev. Rangers coach Solis at the time decided to pull a trick. He let them train the day before the match on the field. After the training ended, they worked on narrowing the area of the field. Because they are dynamic, skillful players, so he tried to make the field smaller for them. In fact, Rangers were able to win the second leg by 2-0 and qualify after losing by 1-0 in the first leg. There is something else that happened in recent years, specifically between 2010 and 2012, after the television broadcasting experience became of higher quality and after stadiums became a real source of income for clubs, so they had to invest in them. Laws have begun to emerge that force clubs that participate in some tournaments to adhere to specific dimensions. For example, in 2012, the Premier League imposed on all its clubs that the length of the field must be 105 meters and its width must be 68 meters. Any club that wants to bypass this law must provide strong justifications and obtain official approvals. Because of this, most of the English Premier League clubs now have the same dimensions in the stadiums, and even in the league this season. In 15 clubs, their dimensions are the same, and 5 stadiums, the differences will be many and small. This means that instead of the length being 105 meters, it will be 103 or 102 meters, and almost all leagues and major tournaments such as the Champions League and the European League. They all started to commit the clubs to this dimension that the Premier League started, and the dimensions of the stadiums must be uniform. There is no logic as there remains a difference because the difference affects the quality of play and matches. It affects the quality of broadcasting. It affects the viewer's satisfaction when he sees a large stadium and sometimes he sees a small stadium, and it influenced the renaissance and development of football within the philosophies that we hear about now. This means that you cannot play with the philosophy that one time the field is wide and another time it is small, and therefore it is actually expected in Europe specifically that within 10 years the phenomenon of stadiums that appear to be much smaller or much larger than the stadiums to which they are accustomed will disappear. The differences become very slight, a meter here or a meter there. Especially with the disappearance of the phenomenon of Olympic stadiums, with almost all clubs turning into real commercial activities. It has no interference in the government in terms of Olympics, national competitions, etc. Yes, there are even bigger stadiums than stadiums. There are smaller stadiums than stadiums, but step by step they get closer and become the same dimension.